In just a few days from now, my channel will be 3 years old. It'll be 3 years of me uploading videos on YouTube. And one of the ways I decided I wanted to celebrate for this year, for this channel anniversary, is by taking a look back and reflecting on some of my older Cars Adventure seasons. I've been doing Cars Adventures for almost 3 years now. I've done over 30 seasons, and I've decided it would be fun to look back at some of those earlier seasons for a few videos that I'll be releasing over the next few weeks to celebrate my channel's 3-year anniversary. Now, I'm not going to be looking over every single Cars Adventure season. That would take entirely too long. There are way too many seasons for me to do one for each individual season. But I definitely will be doing a bunch of them, especially the earlier ones. And I also want to do this series of me reflecting, looking back on earlier episodes of other series. Maybe some early reviews, or Last Lap, The Headlight Zone, other things like that. Anyway, guys, welcome to the first ever episode of the Cars Adventures Reflection, where I look back on a season of Cars Adventures. What better place to start than with Season 1, because that's the first season, that's where you gotta start. Cars Adventures Season 1, Episode 1, Carburetor Crash. I released it on September 3rd, 2017. It actually wasn't my first attempt at starting up Cars Adventures. I had filmed, I want to say about 2 or 3 episodes, but I didn't like them, so I decided to restart with Carburetor Crash, a simple opening episode where Mater gets stuck on the edge of a cliff, and the cars in Radiator Springs have to save him. Definitely an interesting episode to start off the series. It's a very simple concept, and a lot of Cars Adventures episodes that I really like are the ones that are more simple. I just think it's interesting that I started off with an episode that simple. Slowly, over the first few episodes, all the cars in Radiator Springs and all the main characters of Cars were introduced. Episode 3 featured Mater the Greater. Episode 4, Spy Story, introduced Finn and Holly and began setting up a Lemon plotline, which was followed up with a few episodes later. Then, after that, Cars Adventures, Episode 5, Cruises Crash. An episode that I personally look back on and don't really like. It was a Piston Cup race, but I didn't have enough Piston Cup racers, so there were like tuners there, and Superfly is there for some reason. But what happens in this episode became incredibly important to the rest of Cars Adventures, with Cruises Crash really being the inciting incident for all the future of Cars Adventures. You'll notice that this season is sort of all over the place in terms of what the plot is. Nowadays, for my Cars Adventure seasons, I always try to make one plotline going through the entire season, or maybe a main plot with the Radiator Springs characters and a subplot with DJ, Boost, and Wingo. Or in older seasons, I would do like a subplot for the villains. But in this season, there are like a lot of plot lines running at once. Like we had the Lemon thing going on. Now we have Cruises Crash. Now we're back to the Lemon thing with Rise of the Lemons, where the Lemons go into Radiator Springs. Then, slowly but surely, over the next few episodes, a bunch of cars get captured by the Lemons, all leading up to a video that I released on September 18th, 2017, as my 10 subscriber special. When I got 10 subscribers, way back in September of 2017, I released a special episode, Rise of the Lemons Part 3, and this episode helped wrap up the Lemon plotline that was currently going on. After that, the season really took a more racing-centric focus. After Rise of the Lemons Part 3, there was Danny Broke, where Danny Sorvez becomes a better car. He becomes good, basically. And, I don't know, I guess after I'd seen Cars 3, I was like, yeah, all of the next gens probably act like Jackson Storm. We're going to have them all be antagonists in this series, which isn't true. We see them all compliment Cruz, at the end of Cars 3, but since the beginning in Cars Adventures, the next gens were antagonists. Danny, though, here in episode 10, he becomes a nice guy and has stayed that way ever since. I still use him in Cars Adventures to this day. After that, we get You Cruise, You Lose. Cruz gets fired here after a really bad losing streak due to her failing after the Cruises Crash episode. She hasn't been doing too good in racing. In later Cars Adventure seasons, went into why Tex and Lightning decided to fire Cruz. But at the end of this episode, she gets fired, and Sally becomes the new Dynaco racer. An ending that I originally considered not going through with. But I put it in the episode, I uploaded the episode, and now Cruz was fired and Sally was the Dynaco racer. So these decisions that I made like on a whim affected everything going forward in Cars Adventures. Then, after that, we had Cruz's new job, where Cruz gets a job at Revolting Burger, which has sort of been like a recurring joke in Cars Adventures. I just thought it was a funny name because revolting, it's not just the name of a Piston Cup sponsor, but it also means like disgusting. So I just thought that was a clever pun. The next episode is a two-parter. Yokoza steals one of Lightning's Piston Cups, and then he has to beat some of the Japanese tuner cars in a race to get them back. I used the tuners a lot today, and I always forget that this is how I introduced them, because they became major villains starting in Season 2. The tuners were like an actual threat. Here, though, they were just kind of like a one-off antagonist for just these 2 episodes. There really isn't much for me to say about these, aside from one thing that is in a lot of these episodes that really bothers me. I'll show you guys a screenshot of it right now, but in one scene where the cars have to go up this ramp, which, by the way, is made out of some sort of like rubber knockoff Lego tape, which is supposed to be compatible with like Lego bricks. You could put them on the tape, and you could put them anywhere. But anyway, in the background of this shot, you could clearly see just a bunch of my cars, my whole collection back there. And this is just so frequent throughout this entire season. Of course, I know it's Season 1, I have to cut myself some slack. The acting is really bad at times. The camera work is just downright terrible. It's like never in focus. But this is something that I easily could have fixed while filming these episodes. Just don't film in a place that shows your entire Cars collection. This is supposed to take place in the Cars universe. You shouldn't be able to see all of my cars organized, or oftentimes not organized. Like in the thumbnail of the first episode, wow, that's just a mess in the background. And that just really bothers me that I did that without even thinking like to film somewhere else. By the way, starting off with that episode where Yokoza steals the Piston Cup, Radiator Springs was relocated from where it was originally to where it still is to this day. The original area was much more wide open, and so the buildings will always just be a total mess. Where it is now, where I moved it to, and again, kept it, is much smaller and more condensed, and I think it definitely looks a lot better. Moving on, the season really just kind of comes to a standstill after a random sort of like Doc flashback episode. The next episode, episode 16, is called Sally's First Race. And these were filmed outside, and I really enjoyed filming them. This was Sally's First Race, parts like 1 through 5. Something that I never do now is naming episodes Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. I really don't like doing that. I prefer to give every episode its own individual title. But Sally's First Race, just 5 episodes I filmed back to back to back to back outside. And I really enjoyed filming them. Of course, this was Sally's first race as the Dynaco racer. And that went from episode 16 to episode 20. And I enjoyed that so much that I decided to just do it again, just to go outside the next day, it seems, because I uploaded all 5 parts. I'm looking at the upload dates for these episodes. No way. I uploaded episode 14, Drift Race in Japan, episode 15, the Doc Flashback, and the 5 parts of Sally's first race, all on the same day. Nowadays, I usually do 1 or 2 videos a day. Back then, I was doing 7 episodes. And then the next day, I went outside again, and I filmed 3 more episodes outside, wrapping up the season. So yeah, the last half of this season is just 8 episodes of racing, because I really enjoyed filming it. So I decided, let's just do it an absolute ton. And yeah, they're weird. There's like a whole plot point with McQueen driving onto the racetrack. It's weird. But then the season ends on another very important Cars Adventures episode, Cruise's new sponsor. It's a really short episode. It's just 1 minute and 38 seconds. Nowadays, honestly, I'd probably make it like a post-credit scene, because I feel like it kind of fits better that way. But here, it's the season finale. Cruz is watching Sally race. She's annoyed and feels bad because she's been fired as a racer. And then Chick Hicks comes in and hires her to race for him. Another plot point from season 1 that had major effects on the future of Cars Adventures. But yeah, that is season 1 of Cars Adventures. I hope you guys all enjoyed me looking back here and talking about this season. I definitely want to do more of these. I probably won't do all 32 of the original Cars Adventures seasons, but maybe like the first 10 or so, or maybe I'll do the first year of Cars Adventures, with each episode being for its own season. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.